It is 14 minutes to 11. So when I say trans fat, if you had to describe that, you're at Tuck Shop today, you're in your car, you meet someone this afternoon in the park and they say, what do you know about trans fats? What do you say? What's in them? What are they? What are they in? Why are they banned in some places overseas? Could you actually reduce your intake of trans fats? Do you need to reduce your intake of trans fats? That's our Learn Something New this morning, and we're going to do that with nutritionist Lisa Vance, who runs ivegotlife.com.au. And Lisa, good morning and welcome to 612 ABC Brisbane.
Good morning, thanks Donna.
Let's start with the question, what are trans fats?
They're a type of unsaturated fat, Donna, and basically there's two types. They exist naturally or they're chemically made. Most of the ones that we talk about are chemically made, and it's just basically adding some hydrogen to an unsaturated fat so that it's more stable, and they do that for enhancing taste and shelf life in products.
All right, so let's go through that. There's chemical ones and natural ones. Natural trans fats, so what are they found in? What types of things?
The ruminant animals produce them. So it's basically, trans is the chemical structure. That's what it's got to do with. So in some animals,
yes,
there's the enzyme process that will make the fat into a trans fat. So that would be, you might get some in mutton or some in beef or some in dairy, but very small amounts. And they've usually got some part of it cis as well. So it's just the chemical makeup.
Are trans fats broadly dangerous or not? Or it depends on how much?
The chemically made ones, those are quite dangerous in the body, yes. So in fact, they have been banned in many countries. They are bad for us because they increase your bad cholesterol and decrease your good cholesterol. So they'll increase the LDL and decrease the HDL.
All right, so the chemically enhanced or made trans fats, it's done for two reasons, you said. One is to enhance taste, and the other, if I remember, is to enhance shelf life.
Yes.
How does it do that? Do you know?
Well, it makes it makes it more stable. So they take basically an unsaturated fat is quite an unstable one, and that's because of the bonds. So it has carbon. It's just basically the chemical structure. Yes. They're not as stable. So it makes the fat behave more like a saturated fat.
Yes.
So that's why they do it.
So if we went and bought something, I'm thinking of something tasty, something like hot chips. Would the fat in that have the trans fats in, which gives a better flavour to the chips?
So very often deep fried foods, those sorts of foods, or cookies or pastries or those sorts of things often have trans fats in them.
How do you know if something like that, either a sweet thing or something that's savoury, has trans fats in it? Is it the luck of the draw?
Well, that's the challenge, is they're trying to encourage companies. There's different health bodies that are trying to encourage different authorities to make it compulsory to list trans fats, because sometimes you don't know. So there are going to be obvious places where you can suspect to find trans fats. Yes. So for example, that might be pastries or pies or cookies or deep fried foods, those sorts of things. You can pretty much suspect that they might have trans fats. But yeah, generally they're trying to get, or margarines, or if it's got hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils listed in the ingredients list, that's basically a trans fat. So stay away from anything that says
or
hydrogenated fats or partially hydrogenated fats. You want to avoid those. If it says trans fats on it, you want to avoid those. But that's basically, you would look for those ingredients if it said hydrogenated fats or oils.
Can you make those? You referred to pasties and pies, and we've talked about hot chips, sweet and savoury things. Can you make those things without trans fats?
Yes, you can, absolutely.
And is that often done?
Again, it's more commercially viable. It's cheaper to use some of the processed fats. So that yes, you can, but there's a little bit of reluctance to do it.
You've talked about in overseas countries, in some places this is banned, and I think in New York there was a big campaign at some stage.
Yes.
Well, where is it banned, or what is banned? Is it at restaurants, in your home, in the grocery shops?
So there's definitely in some overseas countries there are. So Denmark, I think, was one of the first countries to actually ban it, and then different countries. So in the UK, the first thing that happened was it became compulsory to list any trans fats in products, and then obviously with consumer awareness, there was a growing trend towards banning it, and then certain companies or supermarkets would actually ban it in all of their products, so that you could start to associate certain companies with being trans fat free, which obviously then increases the appeal to use those brands.
Yes.
So it's dangerous enough to your health that it has been banned in a lot of countries that are leading nations.
And when you say dangerous enough, presumably it is the level of trans fats. Is there a level that is safe? And then to go beyond that, is it more dangerous for a 4-year-old than a 40-year-old? Just walk us through that from a nutritional point of view.
Yeah, so definitely, obviously, the higher the level of trans fats, the more dangerous it is. And so basically, you want, and this is mainly the synthetic ones. So 0.02 or 0.01 is actually deemed safe, so less, so a really tiny amount is tolerated as safe and acceptable, but generally no trans fats that are artificially used, I would say just avoid them if you can.
Do you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it a hard thing to do, to go about your day and let's say you're not at home in your kitchen all day and avoid them?
Look, if you are someone that eats a lot of processed foods or fast foods, it would be quite difficult to avoid them. If you're someone that just does pick a natural food and makes your own food at home and uses whole ingredients and natural ingredients, it's not that difficult to avoid them.
You talked about cholesterol, the danger of it. What is being found? What is scientific evidence? Does it increase the chances of a heart attack, or is it just explain that to me?
Okay, so basically with your life, you've got these, your HDL and your LDL. So you've probably heard of good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. And basically the two types, the function in the body is the good one goes around the body and scavenges fats and takes them to the liver. And then the bad one will actually tend to deposit fat. So you want more of the one that goes around the body, picking up the bad fats and takes them to the part of your body that can process them and get rid of them. So the problem with trans fats is you're going to get more of the bad one.
Yes, and what's the impact then? So it increases your bad cholesterol count.
Yes, so then you can get like build up in the arteries and things like that. So you can get heart disease. And that's basically, it just leads to heart disease.
All right, this is maybe an ignorant question. The difference between trans and saturated fats, is there a difference there?
Yes, because trans fats are essentially unsaturated. So, and what they're doing to make a trans fat is they're trying to make it behave more like a saturated fat.
Yes.
So a saturated fat is, different from.
How many trans fats do we actually have in our diet? Someone listening now, have they got above that maximum that's been banned over?
Yeah, I would say your average person definitely is.
And are they getting that mainly at morning and afternoon tea, or out and about buying fast food? Is it fast food they buy and put in their freezer and they heat up?
Absolutely. So let's say someone goes and they have their morning tea and they have a cookie, and then they might have some fast food for lunch, or they have a quiche Lorraine or just something like that, or they have a pie or anything like that. They could be eating trans fats every day.
So all right, so let's just take a quiche. The difference between one you would make at home and one you may buy off a shelf, where do the trans fats lurk in the one that you've bought? Okay,
so the one that you bought would be in the fats that they use. So they might have used like a type of oil, like a hydrogenated oil, when they made the pastry, for example. And if you made it at home and you bought a margarine that said no trans fats, or you used butter, that is a saturated fat, but it's a natural fat, or you used a different type of oil in your pastry and you made it from scratch, then you could easily make a quiche without any trans fats.
Well, without brands, but what do you use as fat in your house? Do you use butter, or do you use something that particularly says no trans fats?
I use a combination of natural oils. So I use coconut oil, I use butter, absolutely, and I use olive oil, I use sesame seed oil, a whole combination of fats. But to spread on my toast, for example, I'll usually take some butter and olive oil and mix that together, or I might use avocado to spread on my toast.
Yes. Oh, all right. And is there a call in Australia for them to be banned? I seem to remember a couple of years ago there was a push, or that they at least be included on labels in shopping centres. Where is that up? Has that been lost?
So I know that the Heart Foundation was really pushing for that, at least for trans fats to be listed on ingredients labels, just so that people have a choice, that they know what they're choosing, and to increase awareness about that. So that's the first thing that they're doing. And I'd like to see them banned, but definitely at least for people to know when they're buying it, that would be.
And has it gone anywhere? Is it something nutritionists are fighting for and the government said no? Is it still in the mix, and it may happen depending on community pressure?
I think it's closer now. I think definitely because in the States it's closer, and so there's an increased awareness. I definitely think that the pressure is on, and I think that it's only a matter of time before we see that.
You mentioned the word awareness. I'm just wondering, for people coming to visit you, clients or people that you meet that are not nutritionists, how many people would be able to answer that question? What's a trans fat and what it does, do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that people have heard about it, and I don't think they realise just how dangerous they are, or how prevalent they are. So yes, that's, I guess, my job and passion is letting people know. So I'm excited that you're spreading the word, Donna. That's great.
But it's a bit like sunscreen, isn't it? When we were younger, you would put on sunscreen, you would go out into the sun and not think about the consequences. And as science goes on, we learn more and more, don't we? Thank goodness.
Yes.
All right, so trans fats, I hope we've learnt something more this morning. That's Lisa Vance. And Lisa, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Donna.